in every family, there are certain unhealthy relationship patterns that are inherited from generation to generation until someone comes and consciously changes them, does something different. And this is incredibly powerful because the problem with these generational patterns is that they can tend to get worse and worse and worse. And I really believe that the point, even of a new generation, is to develop the family line, help them to wake up, become more loving, more powerful, like better people. And so I see it as my task to develop my own family line. So, what are these negative family patterns? They can be hugely different in every family line. So, I use myself and my husband as an example because we have quite different patterns in our respective families. So, I grew up in a typical middle class German family, and my ancestors were farmers. And so, the family culture was in generally of emotional suppression and restriction, quite hard people. There was a big disconnection between men and women, also just culturally, but there is a pattern of men and women fighting in my family and not getting along. And for example, of then quite aggressive conflicts and then people not talking with each other for some days. That was the pattern. Um, and also that the children were pretty much left to fend for themselves because the parents had to work so hard. So that was sort of like before. How this turned up, or how it just manifested in my life, was because obviously my parents already changed a lot of these patterns, but they would communicate in conflicts quite aggressively with each other. Sometimes my emotional needs were not really seen, so I was a very sensitive child, and then sometimes sort of like I was left to fend for myself when I really would have needed someone to guide me, for example, to help me how to have better boundaries, how to look after myself when there are difficult people around, and also what to do with my intense emotions. But because my parents didn't know, haven't learned it, they couldn't teach me, right? So my generational pattern change, what I brought into this family to this point, is that I learned how to have non-aggressive conflicts, so how to solve conflicts peacefully, in general how to communicate in a conscious way, just to stay calm, solve problems. And for example, when I'm with my parents now, they just took this over from me, and we are discussing in a much more relaxed way about things and joking much more, right? So already this has changed in my at least small circle of family. The other thing is also that I really want to get along with men, so I have learned how to understand them, and so my husband and I have a very connected and fun and easy relationship, right? So that pattern has also changed. So that's just, a small summary. My husband's family, so he was born in England, also sort of like working middle class, something like this, but in between. And in his family, there was also a lot of emotional suppression, but also a lot of mystery, a lot of secret keeping, and just not talk about the problem, like put it all under the carpet. That was sort of like the pattern. And so, what he has learned and how he has started to change his pattern is by speaking about difficult things with the people around him, a little bit with his parents, but especially also with me, with his friends, right? Change this pattern of secrecy. Then also to express his emotions more, to sort of like talk about what's bothering him, to admit when he's sad or when he's angry, and just allow that in his life. And he was always rather like avoiding conflicts. And now, so when we came together, he avoided conflict, I had aggressive conflicts. And now after 8 years, we're at this point where we can have quite calm conflicts, or if someone is angry, they calm down and we can talk about it, right? It's not this rupture anymore in our relationship. And the thing is that if you acknowledge that this is your task, and you start changing this, often parents or grandparents, or other family members don't like it, because there is this unwritten rule that the family culture is good as it is, and if you change something, you sort of like criticize my life and my decisions, and that's not good, right? So people feel that change is like an attack on how they live their life. And it's very important that you stick with it, and that you realize that when people have this reaction, it always comes from shame, and they can have the reaction for sure, but you're not doing your family line a favor if you buy into it and if you think that this is the truth, because it's not, right? Like, I really sincerely believe that the next generation is here to change. So whatever you perceive that there's a problem, likely there is. And I'm not saying that the young people are always right, the old people are always wrong. That's not true, right? There's a lot of wisdom in the older generations. But when it comes to these patterns, I would really just think about what made you suffer in childhood. And our natural instincts is to do that differently. And I would listen to your instincts. And of course, you don't have to go to the other extreme, and swing the pendulum in a too strong way, because that's also what happens naturally, right? But you can do like small changes, but especially when you feel that there was like emotional violence or emotional disconnection, it would serve your whole family. Even, if maybe your parents or other family members don't like it, but you're actually, I call this like climbing the throne. You are now the generation that becomes the queen and the king and has to lead the land into peaceful getting along. And if you want to learn more about this, I have written a blog which is called How to Heal Unhealthy Family Patterns with Inner Child Work, and I will link it below. And of course, you can always reach out as well for coaching with me, where we can look into this. All right. I hope you have a really wonderful time. And my dad is just starting to fix our balcony, so perfect time to end this video. All the best.